We'll move to old business, members of council, 2 points from the chair first, and I'll turn to my colleagues. Regarding the visitor center, I don't know if this would be more appropriate for the mayor or Mr. Kelly. I think it's important, and I mentioned this to Councilwoman Dolan prior to the meeting, and I was going to make this request that that City Council, or specifically the CD committee, maybe the next time we have a CD meeting, be appraised and be informed about the plans and Bethworks, especially the stockhouse and other items. I mean, we did approve the TIF, public money is being used there, and I've received several calls from people that the stockhouse now may not just be a visitor center, but it may be a variety of different things, and visitor center may be secondary, and I just think it's would be appropriate for City Council to receive an update on the information pertaining to the stockhouse, visitor center, Bethworks, that whole site maybe every quarter or every 6 months at least. So I'm going to make that request to the administration and possibly Mr. Kelly, that when Ms. Dolan has the next CD meeting, that City Council get an update on the on Bethworks and the stockhouse, visitor center, etc. My second point would be for the police commissioner, Commissioner Bennett's. I know, without being too specific, the second lead story on 69 News at 5 o'clock was 35 burglaries in the city over the last few weeks. And I think we all received an email from a parent, a very strong email, a Lehigh student, graduate. And I'm just wondering, I would like you to maybe give us an update on, without being too specific, it seems like we've had an increase in this season in robberies and burglaries, and we've all received emails from citizens. Is there any way you could address it in a general way without being too specific?
Sure, yes. We have seen an increase in burglaries in December of 2010, and that's something we try to stay on top of. If you remember when we went through the budget process, I spoke of the new street crimes unit, and those officers and their supervisors and all resources available have been directed to work on those burglaries until we solve them and bring them to a conclusion. In conjunction with that, we're also working on a daily basis. I speak with Lehigh University, their new community policing unit. In the past, they had about 20 houses which would be registered with the police department to be checked while the students were away. We're extremely vulnerable. Well, I should say the students' housings are extremely vulnerable during the holiday season because they leave their houses, they go home for vacation, they leave their valuables behind. It's historically always been a problem. This year we're just getting hit a little bit more. Chief Shook from Lehigh University Police Department has informed me that they have 110 residents registered this year, and each night his officers that are working those neighboring streets along the community between Lehigh and the city actually go out and do physical checks on those houses. In fact, his officers actually found a couple of the burglaries. So we are putting more feet on the street. We're coming up with some other creative things that we're going to plan on doing over the next couple of weeks. But it's just an unfortunate thing that is happening during this holiday season this year.
Thank you. Other old business members of council? Ms. Dolan?
I'm sorry, you seem like you're sick too. I just wanted to follow up with that. I've witnessed, and I did report each time, 3 cases of aggressive begging in the 4th and New Street area, pretty much where Campus Square comes down and starts to join New Street and maybe 3rd and 4th. 3 times I've been approached. No, I go there to that area 3 times a week, so I'm there quite a lot. But I've been approached 3 times in the past month by 3 different people asking for money, and they were really different types of people too. It was very interesting. A young woman who I would say appeared to be drugged out, and then two men, one really old and one not so old, who appeared to be drunk. And I've been going to that area for a long time, shopping in that area. Did you notice an increase in that too?
No, I haven't personally. When you see activity like that, please call us.
I always do. I did all 3
Because
times.
the officers will come into the area, they'll move those people along, they'll check to see whether or not, the residents or whether or not they have any outstanding criminal warrants or anything to that effect. But obviously, that's something that we don't condone, and we'll move them along. I'll pass it along tomorrow at our lieutenant's meeting to
I know
step up
that's
our
something that
efforts
the
in that
mayor
area.
takes a strong stand on, and so,
Yes.
in support of that. One of the loopholes is if they duck into a bar, your officers can't go in and arrest them.
Well, if they go into an establishment, we hate to say they're there to patronize that establishment, but that's highly unlikely. It's a fine line. It really is. I mean, one of the things that's nice is Lehigh has graciously given us their cameras along that whole corridor, and when we get some information, if there is somebody in there panhandling, we can watch them on the camera for a period of time before we actually approach them. So I would encourage anybody that sees that type of activity to call us. Our dispatchers can pull up the cameras, see what's going on, and then we can act upon that. But that's another issue I'll address with Chief Shook. They actually have a substation there near Morton and New, and we'll address it with his officers, and we'll keep those people moving along.
Thanks.
Any other old business, members of council? We'll move to communication. 7A, Director of Budget and Finance, Pension Fund Resolutions.
Attached are 3 pension resolutions which need to be adopted by City Council for the police, fire, and officer and employee pension funds. The city is elected to utilize a 5-year asset smoothing method as allowed by Act 44 of 2009, effective with the January 1st, 2009 actuarial valuation report.
This resolution will be on the January 18th agenda for City Council to be voted on. We'll move to reports. President of Council, Council President appointment, Olga Negron to the Library Board.
I hereby appoint Olga Negron, 1306 East 5th Street, to membership on the Library Board. The appointment is effective until January 2014. The resolution is sponsored by Ms. Dolan and Mr. Evans.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiustino?
Aye.
Ms. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Natchez?
Aye. Council appointment, Marie Sterline, Library Board.
I hereby reappoint Marie Sterline, 725 Fernwood Street, to membership on the Library Board. The appointment is effective until January 2014. The resolution is sponsored by Mr. DeGiustino and Mr. Evans.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiustino?
Aye.
Ms. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Natchez?
Aye.
Vote is 7-0.
Council appointment, Kathy Weil, Library Board.
I hereby reappoint Kathy Weil, 79 West Church Street, to membership on the Library Board. The appointment is effective until January 2014. The resolution is sponsored by Mr. DeGiustino and Mr. Evans.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiustino?
Aye.
Ms. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Natchez?
Aye.
Vote is 7-0.
Council appointment, Jack Abel, Environmental Advisory Committee.
I hereby reappoint John Abel, 422 Thomas Street, to membership on the Environmental Advisory Council. This appointment is effective until January 2014. The resolution is sponsored by Ms. Dolan and Mr. Evans.
Comments?
Quick comment.
Go right ahead.
Both Jack Abel and Fran Kundal, who's coming up next, have been on the Environmental Advisory Board since it was first formed. And the EAC is doing a lot of work, great work, doing some really exciting things. They've got several committees active. It's growing. It's very, very good. So I'm just thrilled to have both Jack Abel and Fran Kundal potentially coming back and meeting Joanna Blake. Thank you.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiustino?
Aye.
Ms. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Natchez?
Aye.
Vote is 7-0.
Council appointment, Frank Kundo, Environmental Advisory Committee.
I hereby reappoint Fran Kundal, 521 Linden Street, to membership on the Environmental Advisory Council. The appointment is effective until January 2014. The resolution is sponsored by Ms. Dolan and Mr. Evans.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Malinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DeGiusto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Noncho.
Aye.
Vote is 7-0.
Council appointment, Johanna Blake, Environmental Advisory Committee.
I hereby appoint Johanna Blake, 321 East Church Street, to membership on the Environmental Advisory Council to fill the unexpired term of John Augustino. The appointment is effective until January 2012. The resolution is sponsored by Ms. Dolan and Mr. Evans.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Ms. Malinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DeGiusto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Noncho.
Aye. We have quite a few of the nominees that we just approved in the audience, so thank you for coming and thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Administrative Order Number 1337, I hereby appoint Joseph M. Kelly, Esquire, 915 Linden Street, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 18018, as Director of Community and Economic Development, and this appointment is effective January 4th, 2011.
The resolution is sponsored by Mr. Evans and Mr. DeGiusto.
Comments?
Well, just one comment.
Mr. Mauer?
I believe fairly strongly that administrative order for the mayor to appoint the director of whatever department he has, that unless I am aware of something that's really seriously wrong with the person and a major problem, I will support the mayor's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Couple of things. One is just as a message, I would like to make sure that the administration, I don't see him tonight, but I do want you to thank Mr. Hanna for his service to the city over the last several years. I know it has not always been easy at times. That department certainly brings a lot of can bring a lot of criticism at times, and I think that Mr. Hanna has handled himself well. I also want to just, one of our residents had said it before, I also do want to point out that Mr. Kelly is a City of Bethlehem resident. While I think that our department heads, the ones that live in the city and the ones that don't, do a good job, I think that it's certainly a positive that we have someone that lives in the city that in this particular position. He certainly has knowledge about city contracts and projects. I know he's helped out our solicitor, Mr. Spurk, and most things in the city end up going across the solicitor's desk, so I certainly think he's got a lot of information about things that have gone on in the department already. So I will be supporting his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just a quick comment. I'm sure there's been some doubt cast over Mr. Kelly's experience in the area of economic development and management, but I've had 3 informal, I'll call them interviews with Mr. Kelly, and we covered a lot of ground, and I think it's the key areas. There's a lot of outside work involved in economic development. I think he's had some exposure in his time as assistant solicitor, as in some of this work that's been done by the current regime administration. I think what's going to be as important in the success of the economic development group is going to be his ability to manage that group and the people in that group. That's going to be the key, because I'm sure there are experienced people there. It's going to be how they're going to be used in doing their job effectively. Again, I'll just say this, I went over this with him extensively. I talked to Mr. Kelly more than I've talked to some recent employees I've hired about this, so that's how serious I took it, and I know he's taking it very serious. And again, I do agree with Mr. Mauer. The mayor does have the first dibs on picking his direct report, so to speak, and I will be supporting Mr. Kelly tonight.
Any other